Hey, true believers, do you love politics? Do you love comic books? Well, Superhero Politics is for you. It combines the comical nature of politics and the political nature of comic books. Join us, like, share, and experience the world of comics and politics in a way that you never have before. This is Superhero Politics, and I'm your host, Michael Holmes. Welcome back, everyone, and happy Super Bowl Sunday, and most importantly, happy Black History Month. This is a bonus episode of Superhero Politics, and I am your host, Michael Holmes, coming to you today with some fan emails. Last episode, we talked about that we were going to come back and do that, and I decided, you know what, rather than put that at the beginning of a full episode, why not just do an episode dedicated to answering the questions of our fans? So we're going to read a couple of emails, talk about the upcoming episodes that we're going to do on our Black History Month series, some of the episode titles, a little bit of background of some of the episodes, and a little preview, and then we're going to get out of here and commiserate over the Super Bowl with no team that I pull for in it. So good luck to the Chiefs and to the Eagles. If there's a way that you both could lose, I'd be very happy. But and just to go ahead and get into it, thank you guys for your emails. You can contact me through at superheropolitics@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, superhero-politics-podcast at onpodium.com, and you can leave your messages there, questions, and then we will get back to them. So how this normally works is I will take a few emails. It's not an overwhelming amount of emails, but just enough to make me feel kind of good about the content that we're doing. And then I'll read a couple and I'll respond to them. They can be about politics, or they can be about comic books, or they can be about a fusion of both, or they can be just general questions to me about who I am and what I do, and my positions in the business world or in the political world, or just anything that you guys want to know about me. I am an open book, a panel, graphic novel, whatever you want to do. So we're going to get into it right here, and just in the instance of privacy, I will not put out the email address from those who sent it, because if someone's listening to this, I don't want them to have your personal information or contact information. So I'll just kind of read the subject of the email and just kind of maybe tell where it's from, because I always ask you guys to kind of tell me where it's from, because you guys are from so many different places around the world that I find it interesting that folks are listening in parts of the world that I maybe haven't had a chance to get to yet. Now, I've been to a lot of places, mostly Europe. I've been to South America, Central America, most of North America, most of the United States, Russia. So gotten around, so seen a little bit of the world, but it's always interesting to see the perspective that people have of what we're doing here in the United States in the realm of both comics and also of both politics. And so everyone has their challenges in the world in terms of the political realm that they live in and their representation. We also have, different forms of representation. So in the UK, they have the parliamentary system and the prime minister. In the United States, we have representative democracy, constitutional republic. And, South America, some say they have democracy, but not necessarily practicing democracy. And Philippines, you can have a strongman leader, Duarte, and then just like Kim Jong-un in North Korea, and even though the People's Republic of China is a communist country, and Xi Jinping, and then here our President Joe Biden and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in Canada. So it's a bunch of different varied things, and then always just a different comic. How people perceive the world of comics. Now, the one thing I can say about international comics is I really haven't dug into those. Like, I know there's always an international flavor in comic books where you have, like Alpha Flight, and, Wolverine is Canadian, and you've got, North Star, and, a lot of the, Alpha Flight comics, and then you've got, Aurora Storm is African, and so you've got an international flavor and veins that run through comics. But in terms of like foreign created comics, it's not something I've done. So what I've done right now is just kind of inspired myself to take a look at comics that are produced outside of my, traditional reading life. And so outside of the Marvel, outside of Wildstorm, what comics are being produced around the world. And so I think I'm going to do that. Just kind of talking this out, and you guys are inspiring me, even though you don't know you are. So real quick here, we're going to just get into some of these emails, and we're going to answer them real quick. All right. I just want to say thank you guys again for all your thoughts and emails and everything. And so we're going to get into these. And like I said earlier, I won't give out the emails, but I will tell where the email came from. So our first email is, what is the office that you hold? And that's from Lawrence, Kansas, home of the Jayhawks. And so funny enough, here I'm in North Carolina, and a big fan of the Tar Heels. Our coach, Roy Williams, famously started in North Carolina, went to Kansas, came back to North Carolina, just retired. So there's always this weird connection between Kansas and North Carolina. So the office that I hold, I am a city councilman. So I serve a district of about 20,000 plus people, and it is in High Point, North Carolina. We're a city about 116,000 people, 118,000, 118,000, and I got elected in 2019, and I'm actually up for re-election this year. So I am very proud to serve the city. I think I've gotten some pretty amazing things done here in the time, pushed the city forward in a lot of ways. It was one of those cities that was pretty reliant on the furniture industry. High Point is known as the furniture capital of the world, America's international city, because we have a lot of diverse groups here, but not everyone is always recognized. So, some of the things that we've been able to do is to create offices of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Have annual Unity Fest, Multicultural Fest. We've been able to incentivize economic development in traditionally underserved areas, and we've really taken a pretty strong approach to breaking up racially concentrated areas of poverty. And so, we created a minority incubator for business. And so been pretty proud of that, what we've done across the city, but specifically in my ward, we're probably the most affluent. Highest income per capita is in my district, most economic development. And so I've been responsible for bringing about $150 million worth of investment to my ward, and we're one of the hottest places to live and develop in the city. So hopefully I'll go before the voters this year, and they'll give me a second term to be able to continue some of this great work. But I serve, the office that I serve is representative of Ward 6 in the city of High Point on High Point City Council. Thank you for your email. Cool question. All right, next up. This one comes from, whoa. This one comes from Seoul, South Korea. That is crazy. Wow. And this one is, we love AOC, and that is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Who does she resemble from the comics? Wow, that is a kind of cool question, and from a cool place. I always look at the stats, and when I see places outside the U.S. That are picking this up, and now getting an email from you guys, it's pretty cool. There's a couple of people that AOC kind of reminds me of, in a lot of ways, because she's always on point. Like, she is so poised, and she is so organized. When she delivers her message, it's like she's super accurate. And so when I think of that, she reminds me of Kate Bishop, Hawkeye. And so when I think of the Hawkeye series, and I think of Haley Steinfeld, who is playing Kate Bishop, there's not really a resemblance there, but they're both young and dynamic, and she kind of reminds me a lot of that. She has that same energy when she goes at things. So really tenacious, and how she never really backs down. And sometimes even when facing people who have more power than her, like senators or ranking members and stuff, she's really tenacious. And so the fact that she is constantly never without a rebuttal, without her facts in order, like she just never misses her target. And so she's just really a Kate Bishop, Hawkeye kind of person. Like, if you want to send out a surrogate or someone who's going to drive home your point, who is going to make sure that they hit every single talking point, every angle, that they're going to be right on and have a great strategy, then AOC is who you want to send out. And a lot of people are saying that in a few years she's going to be 35, and in America, 35 is the age when you kind of cross the threshold of constitutionally being able to run for president. So a lot of people are saying that she can, be our first female president if Joe Biden runs again, and Kamala Harris, if they're successful or not successful, and then Kamala Harris will obviously seek the nomination probably once her term as vice president is up. But if you look out on the horizon, there are some pretty strong candidates, and AOC finally hitting that age requirement of 35 puts her right in the mix of potentially being one of those candidates who can run for president. I mean, she would be able to garner that youth vote, that progressive vote, the female vote, the multicultural demographics. She could be a galvanizing force to be president. And I think if that doesn't happen, then obviously the next step for her would be to take the Senate seat, which would be vacated by either Kirsten Gillibrand or more than likely probably Chuck Schumer, who is getting to that age of potentially retirement. So there's a lot of pathways for her, but she's super dynamic. She has a great media presence. She has a great social media presence. So she checks all the boxes, and she's someone who can be in politics for a long time as a fresh voice. I mean, the fact that she's not 35 yet and is amazing, the fact that she's able to accomplish so much. So when I think about that, when I think about who AOC reminds me of, she reminds me of Kate Bishop. Really great question coming all the way from South Korea. Yeah. All right. So next question. Okay. I listened to your last episode. I think James Gunn will save DC. Are you optimistic? And that's from San Francisco. Okay. Cali, home of Nancy Pelosi. Yeah, I'm a little bit optimistic. Don't get me wrong. I have some nostalgia for some of the cast of characters that were in previous DC films. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am mourning for potentially the loss of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I'm mourning. I don't know what else to say about it. Like, I'm in mourning, because hopefully they can find a way to reconstitute her back as Wonder Woman. She has another decade to play Wonder Woman, and so I just think I think going younger in this regard maybe doesn't necessarily work. But I can see them going younger on Superman. I can definitely see them going younger on Batman. I can definitely see them, having the separate universes, the Elseworld Batman, where you have also that Joaquin Phoenix Joker film lining up with the Matt Reeves Batman film. Now imagine that. They just signed Lady Gaga to play Harley Quinn alongside Joaquin Phoenix, and so that's going to be crazy. And so imagine taking Robert Pattinson's Batman and Zoe Kravitz Catwoman juxtaposed against Joaquin Phoenix Joker and Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn. That will be a blockbuster. So, I'm confident, but I also know that there is, gonna be some bumps, and there's some things that he's comfortable with that I think when it comes to actors. And so, he's already pretty much said that, you're probably going to see some former or current Marvel actors who are going to come over to be in some of the films that he is in. And it's not necessarily that's anything new. I mean, obviously, Idris Elba came over from playing Heimdall for years to play Bloodsport in Suicide Squad, and that was a great film by James Gunn. And so it's not like that's new. You've got Zachary Levi, who was one of the Warriors 3 in Thor, and he's over now playing Shazam. And Damon Hansu played Korath in a couple of movies over there, and now he's the Wizard Shazam, and was also in Aquaman as one of the undersea kings of the kingdom. So he's been around in between both of the franchises. So it's not new. I just think people will have a hard time accepting someone like Chris Pratt coming over and playing a major role in DC, or someone like, I don't know, Dave Bautista coming over, and even though he would be probably an awesome Bane, I just think people would have a hard time accepting that, and wouldn't be able to get past the fact that they've seen him as Drax for so many years, or seen Chris Pratt as Star-Lord. So I think in terms of storytelling and production, I think James Gunn is going to put out pretty good, well-written content. I mean, because if Suicide Squad was any indicator of what he could do with really not a super well-known cast, I mean, it was he kind of did for the Suicide Squad what he was able to do for Guardians. So I have some optimism, but I also have some reservations as well. But good question, and I hope we're both right. Okay. All right, next question comes from Toronto. All right, Raptors. Okay. I thought Trump was great. Why do you hate him? Wow. How do I hate thee? Let me count the ways. It wasn't the fact that I hate Trump as a person. It's more what Trump represents, and more what he exposed about America. And to be honest with you, I don't necessarily hate what he exposed about America, because we have a pretty kind of a murky self-image America has. It's like we have this public face where we're so exceptional, but then inside we have this idea that we're just like everybody else, and that we can't be held accountable for the things that we do. So when we're here in America and we're protesting police brutality, or we are protesting income inequality, or we're protesting the fact that decades of precedent in terms of women's rights are being ripped away, it's like, hey, you can't criticize America. America's perfect. And then when we talk about, hey, how about we do something about the history of slavery in this country, and the genocide of the Native Americans, and the oppression of immigrants, and the exploitation of immigrant labor. It's like, well, that happened everywhere. You can't hold this against America. America was doing what the rest of the world was doing. So, in a lot of ways, Donald Trump is the living embodiment of that particular metaphor. Like we're too great to be criticized, but then again, we're just like everybody else. So therefore, you can't hold us accountable for our actions. So I don't hate Donald Trump as a person. I think that he is just a long line of a downward trajectory when it comes to the leadership of conservatism. I mean, he was just an awful choice. I mean, he was unqualified. He had, you know, he was all image, no acumen there. I mean, so the entire, facade of who he was and why he should be president of the United States was that he was this great negotiator, great businessman, had this great vision of the country. He could run the country like a business, and it was just a facade. I'm sorry that you thought he was great. That's your opinion. You're entitled to it. But, just in the sense of where America has fallen to because of this presidency is just a more clear indication that it was ill-fated. I mean, the fact that we're sending Americans to prison because they decided that an election that has happened peacefully, for centuries in this country should be overturned just because their particular guy didn't win. The fact that you had hate groups who now felt emboldened to be able to walk the streets and proclaim their hatred for groups that are out groups or groups that are marginalized. The fact that you have now representatives who will not vote or are forced to vote for things simply because it lines up with the will of a former president, twice impeached president, or that he's for that. The fact that he has, such sway and thrall and mind control over the political media and also the Republican Party, that we can't have reasoned debates. The fact that that there are certain parts of the country who believe that they're somehow entitled to things because he told them that they were, or that they were afraid that they are going to be replaced because he told them that they were. He told them that they would be able to overturn an election, and his word outweighed the Constitution. And so when you look at how he's conducted himself as a leader, as a president, it was the fact that still to this day he's out trafficking in misinformation when it comes to our election, and every election that doesn't go his way is false, or is fraudulent. And I mean, it's just damaging for our country. And then you look at the fact of his policies, the policies that he pushed, were devastating. The tariffs that he put on goods coming into the United States raised the cost of those goods for average Americans. And then, the reckless spending and taxes and, so many things, and not to mention, the renegotiation of NAFTA, which, you being in Toronto, you should know about that. And so, when we look at the baby formula crisis, that was a direct result of that failed negotiation. Pulling out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, it just essentially left China to dominate the South Pacific and emerging markets. And so now we're more at the mercy of China when it comes to supply chains than we were ever before. And so it was just a disastrous domestic, foreign, all kinds of policies. I mean, you look at the fact that dictators like Kim Jong-un were elevated to the stage. Erdogan in Turkey, and Duarte in the Philippines. Like, geez, these are brutal dictators. And so he elevated these guys to be equal to the United States. And it's just the fact that all these things happened, and he walked away with a slap on the wrist. I mean, and so there are people going to go to prison and have their entire lives ruined for doing his bidding. And, more than likely because of, our history, we won't do anything about it. I mean, simply because, we will resist jailing a former president. But my distaste for Donald Trump was not him as a person. I won't carry that burden of hate for someone that I don't know personally. But is what he represented politically for this country is why I hope that he continues to be a drag around that political party's neck, and I hope that we find a way to bring him to justice, and all those who aided and abetted him. So I don't know about Justin Trudeau, but I would trade Donald Trump every day, twice on Sundays for Justin Trudeau. So thanks for your email. All right, we got a couple of more here that we want to tackle before we move into the closing of this episode, this bonus episode, and previews of our Black History Month upcoming episodes. So let's see. What is your favorite? This is from Frankfurt, Germany. Cool. I'm actually going to be in Munich in a couple of weeks for a conference, and love Germany. Been there many times. So, who is your favorite villain and your least favorite villain? Do you mean comic book villain or political villain? Or, well, okay. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna give you my favorite comic book villain, or who I hate the most. No. I'm gonna give you my favorite comic book villain, and then I'm gonna give you my favorite political villain. So not really knowing what you're asking here, because so I'm going to take a swing at it, and hopefully this answers your question from Frankfurt. All right. So my favorite comic book villain, is I have a couple. I'm going to give you who I think is super overrated as a comic book villain. And some people are going to throw tomatoes at me, and they're going to be upset. But I'm not really that big of a fan of like your traditional like Joker. I'm not a big fan of the Joker, and who I think is super overrated is the Batman Who Laughs. Like he's just plot armor. So, but in terms of my favorite villain, like who I really, really have a lot of respect for as a villain, is Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is like he's the well-rounded supervillain. I mean, this guy is as smart as Reed Richards. He's as technologically advanced as Tony Stark. He's almost as good a sorcerer as Doctor Strange. And all he ever really wants is deep down to truly be the hero. Like he wants to be the guy that saves the world and saves the world, but only if he can rule it. Like that's his thing. And so he wants Latveria to be safe. And to be honest with you, if you take kind of what he thinks and you kind of line it up next to, say, T'Challa, or even Black Adam, and they are rulers of their nation, and they just kind of don't want to be interfered with. Now, Doctor Doom takes it a little bit further because, his arrogance and his ego, he believes that if he controlled the entire world, that he would, bring the world into a utopia. And, maybe he's not wrong. I mean, because there have been versions there have been stories in multiple, books where he's actually done that, where he's actually, through his leadership and power and vision, he's been able to bring the world to utopia, but, obviously under his rule. So in terms of my, least favorite comic book villain, is the Batman Who Laughs, and the best comic book villain is, to me, Doctor Doom. Now, if I flip that over to who is my favorite political villain, it's a tie. So, Mitch McConnell. My God, man! I did an episode on McConnell in season 1, and it was the McConnell Who Laughs, and so I actually likened him to the Batman Who Laughs, but Mitch McConnell is he's just the truest sense of a villain. Like there's no way to get around it, and he will say, well, he's just fighting for principles of such and such, but he's just villainous in terms of the way that he wields power. And so if I have a begrudging respect for Mitch McConnell and the way he plays the political chess game. But obviously, this guy has been a thorn in my ass, or in the ass of America in politics for decades. And he turns 81 in like 2 days, and I'm like, dude, just blow away somewhere. Just retire. And it was like he said, well, if we don't take the Senate back this year, then I'm gonna quit. And so as soon as his birthday comes up, I'm going to say, hey, Senator, you gave your word. Not that it matters to him, because obviously he said the same thing when it came to filling a Supreme Court seat when he stole the one from Barack Obama. He said, oh, no. If it happened under a Republican, we'd adhere to the rules. And obviously when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, 7 days before an election, he filled that seat with Amy Coney Barrett. So, just a scoundrel. But this one is this one is particularly angers me, simply because he's seen as a hero. Like, he's Homelander. Like, Ronald Reagan is the biggest villain in political history. Like, there's no way around it. Like, he is the worst of the worst. And the bad thing about it is that he's seen as a hero. He's seen as someone who's like, this demigod. But if you go back and you look at his political record, like, he was straight up a villain. Like, he's like Homelander. And you look at some of the things that happened to this country in terms of the scourge of the AIDS epidemic and the proliferation of crack cocaine, and you look at the war on drugs that demonized essentially black and Hispanic males and sent them to prison. You look at the fact of his economic plans that exacerbated income inequality and made it the worst it has ever seen. His attacks on mental health, his attacks on public education, it's just quadrupling our debt. Like, it was just awful. And like, the bad thing about it is like the media continues to like believe that this comic book hero version of Ronald Reagan is the actual Reagan, and it's not. And so this is why I think that he's our version of Homelander. Like, he stands up and everyone's like, oh, he wears the red, white, and blue. But behind the scenes, he's this monster. And, I hope as we continue to get a little further and a little bit more history taught, if Republicans don't repeal history, but people will see what the true Ronald Reagan was. So in terms of comic books and political villains, that's my answer to your email. Great question. I hope I interpreted that correctly, and look forward for more questions. All right, our last one. No, that was our last one. That's the last one. Oh, no. We've got one. Oh, wow, from London. What are your thoughts on Brexit? Oh, wow. I was actually in the UK 2 years ago. Love it. I think Brexit was an overreaction, and now we're starting to see it. I think Brexit has not been successful. I think the European Union is suffering for it, and I think that it has a chance. I think for those who are now left in Parliament, who were there and were kind of taken by storm by the demand for Brexit, or the seeming demand for Brexit. I think they have a chance to kind of reassess now that we've been a few years into it, and we've seen that it's not working. And so that's my thoughts on Brexit. I mean, like I said, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know on the ground. I just know from what I observe and the thoughts of my friends and colleagues who are in the EU and how they feel about it. But I think just from what they say, they kind of share my opinion of Brexit, that it has not been successful, and they wish that they could kind of reverse course. But I don't know if that's possible. I'd love to hear a little bit more on what you think about it. And so if you want to follow up with that email to let me know your thoughts on Brexit, I would be happy to read them on an episode. So that's it, guys. That's some great emails. And so as we get ready to close this episode out, I just want to give you guys a preview of our upcoming Black History series. I know what you're saying, like, Mike, why are you so behind? It's already February 12th, so you're halfway through Black History Month. And I'm like, you know what? Be quiet. Black History is 365 days a year. So if I want to do Black History all the way to the beginning to February of next year, I'm gonna do it. And so we're gonna take some topics in the Black History, and we're gonna talk about those. So just gonna give you a little preview. The episodes titles: we was kings, we were kangs. Talk about the Kang Dynasty and also, the black political power structure in the United States. Black Girl Magic. We're going to profile some of our upcoming and historically black female politicians, and we're going to line those up with some black female magic users in the comic world. Fear of a Black Planet. We're going to talk about black representation. Both in comics and also in representative democracy. And then this one, guys, this one's going to be hot. And I already feel it because, when talking to some of my friends, they didn't really like this title, which makes me mean I got to do it. And so we're going to cover black conservatism, and we're going to focus on Augustus Freeman, otherwise known as Icon. And the name of this episode is Icon or Icon. Man, y'all gonna have to turn in for that one because that one's gonna be hot. We might have to do an extended episode on that one. But those are some of our Black History titles that are coming up. I hope you guys tune in. Please like, share, subscribe. Get people listening to this content because I think it's really, really unique. As I can see from some of the emails that you guys have sent, that you guys are really thoughtful and really introspective about both the world of comics and also of politics. And so I just think it's super cool that I am getting emails from all over the world right here in High Point, North Carolina, to talk about my views on politics and also my love for comics. So, guys, thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, share, follow us on social media, and keep your emails coming, guys, because we'll do another episode just like this to answer all of your emails. And so, once again, guys, thank you for listening to Superhero Politics. And remember, you don't have to be superhuman to be a superhuman. Until next time, bye. What's going on, true believers? Thank you for your continued and growing support. If you're enjoying the content that we're producing here on Superhero Politics, I ask that you subscribe anywhere that you can find podcasts. That means iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. You can find us at Buzzsprout and also on our social media at Superhero Politics on Twitter, at Superhero Politics on Facebook, Superhero Politics on Instagram, and Superhero Politics on TikTok. Like, share, join us, and if you would have any topics that you would like to share or just questions that you would like to ask me, you can send your emails to superheropolitics@gmail.com, and we'll do an episode where we answer your questions. Thank you for your continued support, and remember, always speak truth to power.